which is that I'm the one who got her into it. So,
okay.
So in her defense. So, but they are often giving these, the teachers are often giving these really sort of affirmations from the front of the room. And my traditional approach to those is to completely ignore them as incredibly and irretrievably annoying. And however, what they're saying is what you're saying. What they're saying is pedal through your resistance. You're telling yourself a story that you can't turn the knob up to the right now, the resistance knob up to the right now, and stay on the beat and sprint and do all the... You're telling yourself a story you can't do it, but you actually can do it. Try it. Try it. Get over the limiting stories you're telling yourself. And in fact, yesterday morning when we did Soul Cycle, the guy at the end said something I normally would have ignored, which was, next time somebody proposes something to you that you tell yourself you don't want to do it. Hence the sensory deprivation tank. Direct link to what he said to my being willing to do it. So there's some there.
Yeah, there's something about things like Soul Cycle, like even if they're right, even if the motivational speech rings true, you want to, like, fuck this.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, I think it's the problem with spiritual teachers, right? It's a problem with somebody or anybody who walks around that has the answer, and often the answer can be this sort of Pollyanna-ish Disney Channel thing that maybe it probably is true on some way, but it's just the delivery of that kind of certainty that's so annoying.
Yeah, I always say that my there are millions of meditation books. The only thing new about the books that I write is that I add the word fuck a lot. And that is just a new way to talk about this stuff. And because our tendency, or at least guys like us, I think, or people like us, men and women like us, is to, some people, when you hear this kind of affirmation uttered, you reflexively reject it, which is, again, normal. But if you can just say it to people in fresh language, it's the reason why these things are cliched is because they're true. And they become cliche through sort of mindless repetition. But if you can find new ways to articulate them, they can land.
I think also, whether it's your book on meditation or anybody's just life experiences that they're writing down, we gather information from other people's life experiences in a very unique way. And it's one of the reasons why people really enjoy autobiographies. It's one of the reasons why people really enjoy truly reflective, introspective thinking, because we can pick out little gems in ourselves. So even though you might be talking in your meditation book about things that other people have talked about in meditation books, you're talking about it from your unique personal experience. Right. And when someone reads that or hears you say it, you get something intangible out of that.
Yeah. Well, we talk a lot about, so my favorite comedian of all time, other than Joe Rogan, is Dave Chappelle, and you came on my radar screen because you were on a show, the Chappelle Show back in the Fear Factor bit he did years and years ago, which was one of the funniest things I've ever seen. And Chappelle, in one of the seasons, Jeff and I were talking about this last night, as a matter of fact, talked about how he was doing one of these outtake episodes. I can't remember which season it was in because I only did 2.5. He was doing an outtake episode, and at the beginning he did a riff about how back in the day, African-American communities never got the good part of the pig to eat. The white people got the good parts of the pig. So the African-Americans had to figure out how to make good food out of snout. And that's, he said, what this episode is going to be. We're going to take the snout, and we're going to make good stuff out of it. And my approach to writing books about meditation is the snout is the good stuff. The embarrassing shit that happens to you when you're meditating is the good stuff. And it is what will allow people to see what the practice does for you. So I take the worst, most embarrassing stuff that happens and talk about it, because that gives you a front row seat at what training the mind actually looks like. And if you can't have a sense of humor about how crazy you are truly fucked.
I agree.
Well said. Well said.
I think that those uncomfortable moments are so important for other people to hear about, too.
Yes.
%. I've read all of Tatulin's works, almost all of them. He's a brilliant trainer. I agree with that 100%. Outside of competition.
Let's explain it to people.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah. Let me. Okay. So let's say, for instance, I'm a big believer in never being sore. You should train, and the next day you should wake up feeling good. Okay. You know why?
How's that possible?
Well, because look, if okay, that's a great example. Let's say your energy levels.
We're talking about fit people, by the way, right?
Every human being.
So guys never worked out before?
Maybe first day, never tried.
How is it possible to work out and not be sore?
No problem. Beautiful.
Okay, here we go.
So, let's say there's something called rate of perceived exertion. Okay? So, let's say I make you do pull-ups, and let's say the maximum amount of pull-ups you can do, the maximum amount of pull-ups is 10. Let's keep a nice round number. At 11, you couldn't do 11. If I pointed a gun at you, you couldn't do 11. Should I make you do 10 pull-ups on our workout? No. I'm going to make you do 5. Why? Because I'm setting you up to work the next day. The next day we're going to do 5. And the next day we're going to do another 5. And then we're going to do 6. When 6 is really easy, we're going to do 7. Why? If you count, if you did 10 pull-ups on Monday, you're going to be sore till Thursday. Let's say it's really your max. So Thursday you've only done 10 pull-ups. From Monday to Thursday you've only done 10 pull-ups. Me, I've been doing 5 pull-ups every day. So I'm at 20 pull-ups already, 25 pull-ups. I have more volume than you. Now, if you add up at the end of the year who trained more, I've trained way more than you. So let's say I go to jiu-jitsu practice. I'm doing jiu-jitsu every single day, 3 rounds, 5 days a week. That's 15 rounds. You go in twice a week, but you kill yourself. You do 5 rounds each day. You push yourself those last 2 rounds, and you burn yourself out. I still did 15. You're at 10. At the end of the year, I've done countless rounds more. I've had so much more training than you. So how much training can we pack in the week? That's the real question. How much volume can you expose your athlete to? So I always tell people, look, exercise can produce energy. So let's say I'm feeling like a 7 out of 10. 10 being I'm really like energized. 1 I was like really lethargic, feeling like I need to lay down. And 7 I'm feeling good. Okay? If I get up and I do a right amount of exercise, the right amount, I can feel like an 8.5. Exercise can give me a tonic effect, like drinking this coffee. So let's say I just do some jumping jacks, I hit the back for a couple of rounds, I'm feeling good. Once you get that high, shut it down. Don't go into the phase where your body's beat up, tight, broken up. Don't redline the body. That's only for training camps, for a small period of time. Why? Because you get a little bit more from the system. But in the long run, you get less. In the long run, you've taxed the system. So if you do that regularly, by the time you actually get good, you'll be broken up. That's why I do a lot of flow training. Have you ever heard of Mihai Csikszentmihalyi's flow?
No.
Okay, so Jamie, can you look up a flow chart? It'll be so much simpler. Like just put in flow in the workplace or flow chart. This is pure genius. This guy is pure genius. Basically, he went and he coined the term flow. So like when you're in a state of flow, we've all been in a state of flow. The number one way to know that you're in a state of flow is time flies by. I'm sure 3 hours already. Yeah. It was a great podcast. You know, the one where you have the worst guest or you're having the worst workout, it feels like every minute is an hour. That's a bad, you're not in a state of flow. And a state of flow is you're having the right amount of difficulty, but it's not so difficult that you go into stress, and it's not so easy that you're bored. It's the right amount of challenge. So let's say as simple as playing like Tetris. If I put you on a level that's too high, you're gonna play for 5 minutes, you're gonna be like, I'm done. If I put you on a level too easy, you're going to be like, this is boring. If I put you at the right amount of level, see, that's the flow channel. So if the challenge is too high, you'll meet anxiety. If it's too low, you're bored. When I go in the practice room, I'm trying to create flow. I'm having fun. Training should be addictive. Imagine training was addictive. Everybody would train, everybody would be fit. But people always go into anxiety. They go and they kill, they slam their body. Then I have to convince you to do it again 3 days later, 2 days later. And you're like, dude, the mental energy is going to take me to get there. Like, it shouldn't be. Training should be a pulling force. It should be pulling you. You want to go training. If you don't want to go training, it's not fun. If it's not fun, you're not going to do a lot of it. And if you're not going to do a lot of it, you're never going to reach mastery. So how do I make it pleasurable? How to make it fun? I have to be in a flow state. And you can get into a flow state in almost anything. But when you're out of that flow state, cut it. We're going to get further. We're going to do more training if we cut it today and come back in tomorrow. Because I'm a big believer in consistency over intensity. Intensity should be done once in a while, because by nature intensity can only be done once in a while. If you're going hard every day, you're not really going hard every day. You can't go your max every day. There's a cost to going to your max. Can you sprint every single day? You cannot sprint every single day. It's ludicrous. You can sprint once or twice a week. The best sprinters in the world, they sprint once or twice a week. Nobody sprints every day, because intensity by nature entails that you need to take a break. Because if you don't need to take a break, you didn't really go to your maximum intensity. If you lift your maximum lift, the maximum amount of reps you can, the maximum weight you can lift, if you do 2 reps, that wasn't your max. Because if it was, you wouldn't have a second rep in you. You understand? Right. I would have to give you a break for you to have a second rep. So we didn't find your true max, right? Intensity, maximum effort entails you have to stop, because it's the maximum. There was no more reserves. There are no more reserves.
So what do you think about people that say there's no such thing as overtraining?
Here's the John Denner narrative, and he coins it really, really well. He says, look, it's under rest. So he says, look, you can overtrain if you didn't give your body the rest later.
Yeah.
But he says, look, no matter how hard I push and practice, if I didn't kill myself, I can rest from it and recover and have super compensation. I agree with that.
Some guys have made great strides with just mental fortitude and mental strength, overtraining the shit out of themselves.
Okay, but can I ask you this?
Yes.
They were successful, yeah?
Yeah,
Okay.
but their bodies break down.
Right. But could they have been better if
Possibly.
they used flow? Exactly.
Right.
As
But
good as they
guys
were.
like Dan Gable, for example. Like that, what Dan Gable essentially was done in his 20s, right? In terms of like his body's broken
Right.
down,
Exactly.
knee replacements, hip replacements, that kind of deal.
Let me ask you this. Who wins more often, Russians or American wrestlers?
Russians.
Every time an American wrestler wins, he's like some prodigy. He's rare. It's rare. It does happen, but it's rarely he's a technical master.
Right.
However, you have these Russian guys that win gold medals. You've never heard of them, and they're like Michael Jordans of the sport.
Yeah.
There's just so many of them. They train long, consistent practices, whereas in America we do Monday, Wednesday, Friday hard. We kill it, and then you rest Tuesday, Thursday. The Eastern Bloc had a totally different understanding. They're like, it's volume, volume, volume. Near the fight, short and intense. Only near the competition phase. But before that, it's the maximum amount of volume you can. Imagine me and you we're 2 athletes, A and B. You're A and B. You're training jiu-jitsu 3 times a week really, really hard. You're going all out. I'm training jiu-jitsu every single day. My average practice is 2 hours. Your average practice is 2 hours. But when you go in, you kill it. Like you go with all the black belts and you kill it. At the end of the year, I'm averaging 3 practices or 2 practices more than you. So I've had 100 practices more than you by the end of the year. 104 practices. Let's give 2 weeks for vacation. 100 practices more than you. 200 hours more than you have been training. When we roll, your intensity that you put on the mat is going to be irrelevant. Why? Because I've also tasted that intensity periodically. It's not that much of a factor now. When you go super aggressive on me, when you attack me aggressively, I have felt that. I know how to deal with it. Plus, I have an extra 100 hours on you. 200 hours. So I'm going to mangle you. You know what I'm saying? The volume is far more important than the intensity. The intensity, by nature, is need to be done periodically. If you do it every day, it's not intensity.
So how do they structure their training?
They're more playful. You know, they kind of warm up, they kind of flow roll, they do a lot of technique, high emphasis on technique. Now, a lot of people hearing this are going to be like, well, the Russians also are funded by their government. You know, their government supports them a lot more than maybe an American wrestler. Okay, I agree with that. There are many factors. However, we can't deny that they're technically, I hate to say the word superior, but they're technically more advanced, technically, when it comes to wrestling. They have more of a flow understanding. They play around, and the practice gets more and more intense until you see them going really, really hard. They're going live, you know? They're going really, really rough. But they were playing. They have a more playful attitude. Look at the Cubans. You ever see Cubans sparring? They're like 50 guys in a room. They're just touch sparring. There's no headgear. There's no mat on the floor. They're literally sparring on concrete. You think they're really trying to drop each other? They're on concrete. I mean, the Cubans are the top boxers. They consistently win gold medals. But in practice room, they're playful. Nobody gets hurt. Like you're saying, the Thais. The Thais are just, if you go in there and you kick a Thai really hard, he won't spar with you anymore. He'll be like, this guy's too amateur. There's a time and place for intensity. I'm not anti-intensity. I think there's a time and place. Like Angelo Dundee was probably arguably the greatest boxing trainer in history. He says, look, fighting is for fight night. In practice, it's only practice. George St. Pierre has that attitude, and I think that's why he's so good and so healthy today. You know, because he never hurts his sparring partners. People line up to want to spar with him. it's a joy to spar with him.
Yeah, I love this idea and I love this approach. I think that